All right, I don't even really know how to start this. Um, I've been accused of making this my way of, I guess, getting my truther fame out there. Like my persona is all about, debunking blindfold vision. Like, why do I have it out for this? Why can't I just be open to the idea that this is possible? And um, this video is going to go into that a little bit. It's going to be maybe a bit of a longer video for those of you that are really interested in what I have to say about this and why I think it's so important. Um, just as context, I was, a radical leftist for years. I believed in climate change to the extent that I was like basically thinking I had to save the world, as I've kind of gone over in other videos, because of climate change. And then right before COVID happened, I went down the rabbit hole of like, is this even a real thing? Like the scientific consensus is being manipulated here. And I didn't realize that. And then once I did, I realized how many people had become so identified with catastrophic climate change that it essentially was acting like they were acting like a cult, and I was ostracized and that whole thing. And then COVID happened. And at the time I was already clued into the vaccine stuff. So I was watching Del Bigtree from the get-go. And as soon as I started to see, I was already familiar with Tom Cowan. In fact, I'd spoken to him, kind of a long story. But, and I was watching Andy Kaufman, and that's how this YouTube channel kind of began and how I got these subscribers. Initially was making a video about what Cowan and Kaufman said about, is contagion basically a real thing? Is our viruses proven to exist, and so on and so forth. Now that's 5 years ago now. Okay, so I will say that 5 years later, that particular whole rabbit hole, as far I still lean in the direction of what they're saying when it comes to viruses and stuff. And that's why I trust people like Alec Zeck and people like podcast hosts like what am I trying, what's that name, Here for the Truth, those guys. And how about Alfa Vedic, who just yesterday had Edith on their show as well? Like, these are podcasts that I have come to trust to some extent. And, I know that Tom Cowan and Andy Kaufman are friends with these people. So there's this kind of inner circle of the truther space, at least from my perspective. There's a constellation of people that I'm familiar with and that I looked up to some extent. And I felt like we were all on the same team. Now, as you can see, if you've been watching my YouTube videos at all, I'm starting to have some problems. First with this blindfold vision thing, and then flat earth. And I'm realizing now that basically truthers have their own consensus. And it's just as bogus. Because I'm just going to talk about the blindfold vision stuff for this episode. But you have to understand that, where's the people pointing out that the blindfolds are not true blindfolds? Why am I doing this? Like, where's Tom Cowan, that brain, that skepticism, that questioning thing? I haven't seen him talk about this. I haven't seen Andy Kaufman talk about this, or Amanda Vollmer, or a lot of people. Is this something that we can be, that we should allow to just be promoted in our community, this blindfold vision thing? I don't think so. I believe that, if we're trying to flip the whole medical paradigm, expose it as being a lie, that's a pretty big deal. That's like, if we can succeed in that, that we can all die knowing that we contributed something super meaningful to this world. That it's its own monumental task. And I've lost a lot of friends. Like I've made sacrifices, like many of you have as well. Probably, if you're far along the truther path and you've spoken up about things publicly, you get pushback for stepping out of line. And it's just so hard for me to like come this far and be fighting truthers about basic things like this. I guess I just wanted to set the context a little bit. Like, why am I so worked up about this? It's because this is like the way forward. We're, talking about, I thought this was the cutting edge of the truth movement. And in my opinion, we should have high standards for what we are promoting and vouching for. I cannot just tell somebody, in my day-to-day life, go watch The Way Forward, go watch Here for the Truth, go watch Alpha Vedic. You'll be exposed to all kinds of cool ideas. Why? Because as soon as they were to look into something like this, we just lose all credibility. Because this isn't real. Now, is telepathy real? Or maybe some of these kids and, Dahlia and maybe her daughter, is there some psychic phenomena that's happening in a minority of these cases? I don't know. I've seen some pretty interesting videos of Dahlia's daughter and stuff. She's also like severely autistic, right? So, severely autistic people tend to have been known to have extraordinary abilities. So that's not the same thing. Any of these like random little stories people have or possible psychic abilities does not mean that all the kids in Edith's program, this program that Alec is pushing forth and stuff, are activating and seeing through blindfolds. That's the issue. And this whole panel they just had, by the way, which is kind of something that was in response to me getting so worked up about this when I was in the program. They told me they were going to do this, which was supposed to be a panel, a video kind of like being a little bit more honest about these blindfolds. But they're not really doing that. They're pretending like, oh, to see through the blindfold, you have to cheat or like really shift things. That's not true. This is the mindfold. Okay, this is it. There is foam all along here to keep it off your face, like a good, 3/4 of an inch of foam. Now, you might think that, okay, well, that's fine. You can't see through foam. Well, guess what? You kind of can, actually. You might not think so, but you can see through the foam. And so when you place it on your head, initially, especially as an adult, you can place it in a way where you can't see anything. But of course, they say you should keep it loose so light comes in around the sides. Well, that's fine, but that's not really how you see through it. They talk about the pinholes opening up. People, the pinholes are the foam. You're seeing through the foam. Matter of fact, do not join Edith's program. If you want to become, if you want to teach your kid blindfold vision, buy one of these $20 mindfold masks, ask them to put it on, and tell them to basically relax their eyes for a minute or two, and then little windows should start opening up. And they'll be able to see as they shift their head. You'll notice them looking up a little bit like this, but they don't have to. It kind of just depends on how the mask is set. And if you smile, which they tell you to do, guess what happens? Especially for kids. Imagine, kids have an easier time because their faces are smaller. This mask is not designed for a kid. So this nose here, all this foam, they can easily see through it. Just right down the bridge of your nose. Now, here's an important thing to note. The kids think that they're seeing out of here and here because that's how vision works. It's a weird thing where like I'm thinking I'm seeing here, but it's really coming out of this eye. Does that make sense? Because you're seeing across the bridge of your nose. I explained to people in the group, you can open and close one eye and you'll see that the windows on the opposite side are opening and closing. What does that mean? That means that the windows are associated with the opposite eye because you're seeing through the nose right here. People have been doing this for at like 10 years, maybe longer. Go look around for extraocular vision. Here's a kid reading with this 8 years ago. Why does Edith and Dahlia and all these people, why are they spinning this story like this is the cutting edge and we're about to, activate our full human potential and take off into the new world? This has been going on for at least 8 years. I think probably more like 15. This was just a cursory little search I did. There are people, I will show this video here where this kid has explored these. It has millions of views. He figured out that you can see through. Do you realize how retarded this is? This is years later. We're putting this in front of the truther community on all these podcasts that are supposed to be like our premier podcasts. And then people like me and others have come along and be like, hey, this is actually, the kids can see, like, this isn't legitimate. And we're attacked as like not being, being overly skeptical. Or, that was your experience, as if my experience seeing through the mask and figuring that out, that's what's going on with my daughter. All that means that could be happening to all of you, and you just haven't figured it out yet because you're so self-delusional about into this idea that these kids are being activated and they can see and these little windows are opening up. You have your whole story. And so me coming and telling you, hey, by the way, the masks are see-through, that doesn't fit the story. So in some way or another, you got to pretend like that's your experience. You're just cheating. That's that big idea that they're putting forth here, is that people are cheating. That's the only way No. The way these kids are seeing through the mask is through the foam, okay? Now, I could spend 4 hours right now going through this entire presentation and just picking it apart. But who's going to watch that? And I'm going to try and not spend my entire night right now doing this. So, but I have to say something, because this is just ridiculous. And like, again, Tom Cowan, Andy Kaufman, you guys, we need to be just as skeptical with people pushing stuff on our own side. It's not just the mainstream scientific consensus that's a problem. It's people like Edith and Alec and these others who are spinning a whole big worldview tale based on something that they think is occurring that's not occurring. And they refuse to be honest about it even. They should be called out. We should have high standards. There needs to be that energy of like, let's protect the integrity of what's going on here. We have a lot invested in this. There's a lot on the line. Do you see what's happening there? They act like, because I say that you're seeing through the foam at the nose, that all you would be able to do is see down. No, your eyes are seeing through straight across. Look at all this foam here. That's what you're seeing through, the fucking foam. You can see straight across, all the way across the room, depending on the conditions of, your face. If you're a kid, this is what I figured out in minutes. Once my kid was activated, do you know how long it took to activate my child? About, 1 minute, 2 minutes. She literally relaxed, had her do a few relaxation eye exercises, and then poof, you can see. You can see through the blindfold. Imagine that, this whole program. It's ridiculous. I cannot believe I have to even do videos like this, but someone's got to. This was 2 years ago. How is this still being put out in front of our truth community? Where's the due diligence? Why do they switch? They start telling me that stories. I've seen things behind their head. I mean, kids have seen things behind their head. There's no way they could have been seen through the front. Guess what? On this mask, there's foam at the side. Okay? You know how easy it is to see behind you if you just barely tilt your head a little bit and look that way? You can see pretty damn good all the way behind you, almost 180 degrees with just a little tilt. You can see through the foam in the same way. Whether it's through the foam or like a little gap in the foam, it doesn't matter. One way or the other, that's how they're seeing behind themselves. And do they know they're cheating? I don't think so. They're trying to please their parents who are just absolutely giddy with joy, or in Edith's situation, has built a whole business around this and has been telling their kids for freaking years that they have this magical ability and they're one of the pioneering luminous kids. Remember, these kids have been doing this for at least 8 years. I just showed that in a video, right? I mean, this has been around for a long time. Supposedly the secret sauce for Edith is that she gets the parents involved, which was a really brilliant idea, because parents are actually more easily indoctrinated, it turns out, than the kids in a lot of cases, because they came into this fully trusting, already thinking that, you know, we're being lied to in a million ways, and that these psychic phenomena are true, and that Alec Zeck and Edith and these are my favorite people. And you know what the funny thing is? There was another woman in the class, okay? When I started speaking up, there were other people that actually appreciated what I was bringing up, and some of them. So this woman participated in the program with her child, and me and her became friends because I started speaking up, and then she started questioning things, and she kept experimenting with the mask. I just gave up immediately. I was like, this is ridiculous. She kept playing around with it, and look at what she did. She was able to see behind her head.
Green. Blue. Dark blue. Red. Was that red or orange? Yellow. Green.
Let's move kind of fast because there's a lot of cars.
Red.
There were people in the group who immediately thought that she had access to this magical power. That's exactly what they say, that when they see their kids doing it. And she revealed that she was just simply looking behind her, basically, like she's seeing through the mask. That's how it's being done. Now, you would think that would call into question everything, right? Me showing these videos of people debunking it, me describing all of this would debunk it. You would think that people would take a step back and go, wow, we've actually misrepresented how we present these blindfolds. I mean, at Confluence, supposedly there were kids on a stage and people weeping in an audience because they thought that these were real blindfolds and that these kids were actually seeing through them. And it's not a big deal because people have seen behind their head, kids doing it behind their head like this. Now, let's get into some of this, what else they said here, huh?
Imagine, though, that you live in a world where most people say that human beings are land animals, that we can't swim. And then you get a few people saying, hey, actually, you can swim. And swimming is quite fun. Come and play and explore with us. So you got some kids that are just like blowing bubbles, learning to float on their back, and just like doggy paddling on the shallow end. And it's a similar thing with the three-pointer, right? It's like, no, everybody must be swimming 100-meter dash at high speed. Only butterfly stroke for us to believe that this is possible.
No, listen, that's not what's happening here. She claims that all 100% of the kids get activated. Activation is simply seeing through the foam at the base of the nose right there. That's what's happening to all these kids. It's not that some of them are having, doing something else and some of them are just playing around. The activation, the pinholes, the windows that open up are just you seeing through that fractal foam. You can see colors, you can read, you can do anything.
And when I mean that is they're playing catch as if there is no mask there. They're reading as if there is no mask there. They're seeing at all angles as if there is no mask there.
They're playing catch. They're reading as if there is no mask there. As I've said, you're literally seeing through right here across the nose. You can do anything. These kids, that's how it's happening. The reason the adults, it takes longer is because our faces don't allow it to happen so easily. So you really have to smile and scrunch and practice and tilt and figure it out.
I held my phone up, pulled up a random paragraph on my phone, put a piece of paper, I've shared this a number of times on my show now, put a piece of paper over my phone, and Matthias had the mask on, right? So double layers. And he was able to read every word on my phone.
Okay, that piece right there, putting things over a phone and they can see what's happening under a phone, that stuff sounds pretty interesting. But if that was truly actually happening, tell me how that's not on video, Alec. How is it reproducible? Is it repeatable like science? You know, like the fact that your kids are seeing stuff totally underneath a freaking, shouldn't we be testing it and being like blown away? Like, how does this, the thing is that they cherry pick a couple times. A kid might have got something right. Maybe they guessed right.Maybe they picked up on something, because that's also possible. If a kid's trying to please you, they can kind of pick up on subtle things. This is studied in science. Like, there's other ways of communicating things. So that might be what's occurring here. But regardless, when they start talking about, kids can see when it's in the other room, they're clairvoyant. They can see it across the country. They can see, they know what's happening in it. Where's the proof? Where's the proof that's not cherry picked and stretched and, you picked the next one I was going to pick up? There is no proof. Why? Because we're all just spinning. This is all lore. It's all part of the lore. Just the kids can initially see through the foam, and then we sprinkle in all of our other stories we've seen and heard and stuff behind the head. It's just impossible. Is it impossible? Well, no. We've already seen that it's not impossible.
That's my own direct experience with it
it's so frustrating to me. This is Alec. This is what his response has been to me. My own direct experience. Your direct experience is that you can see through the mask. That's not mine. When I put the mask on, it's black. That's maybe not what he said. That's what someone else said. But this idea that I've seen kids doing this, something that cannot be explained by what you're describing. And so we just have different direct experiences. Listen, you put those kids on a stage and you told everybody that these were blindfolds. Correct the record. They're not just, it's not like, you can cheat and see through. No, all those kids on the stage were very likely just seeing through the foam. It's dishonest, Alec. And someone's got to tell you. I will tell you. I don't know what everybody else sleeping on the job. Frankly. Man.
Well, how do we explain how this works? And I have some ideas related to the biofield and ether and things like this.
Biofield, ether. See, it all fits into like the rest of our story we're telling. We're unlocking these untapped potential. Or we're just seeing through the foam and everyone is pretending like there's this magical thing happening when there's not.
Having a little bit of light filter through sort of stimulates the brain to think that it is using vision when it is in fact not using vision. And if I'm incorrect on that, please correct me.
Okay, I'm happy to explain that piece.
I'll explain this for Edith, okay? When they say they're letting light in, they just mean around the tops and the bottoms. That's not the vision. That is different. That's why they say first we let the light in, and then later you can tighten up and you can still see. Well, yeah, if it's a kid and it's placed right, sure, they can still see. It probably will be harder the tighter it is. But guess what? You're seeing through the foam. The looser it is, the easier it's going to be. The tighter it is, you can still see through the foam because that's how you're seeing. What's happening here, by the way? All this storytelling. And dazzling you with a bunch of different ideas and kind of taking the focus off of the mask, let's see through when pinholes, blah, 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 blah. But this and this and this and this, and it all, look at the bigger picture of what this all means. It reminds me of flat earth because now that I understand that there's like a very basic proof that we can all figure out, again, in the southern hemisphere, unless you want to say that they're lying all across those countries down there, between every line of longitude, the distances would have to be being fudged. It's absurd. But when I bring that to a flat earther's attention, they can't engage with that point. They dismiss it. they deflect, they start talking about X, Y, and Z. Why? Because when it comes to something like this, the mask is see-through. That's the foundation of this entire program, is that mask. If you question that, forget about building all the rest of this stuff on top of that. You have a problem at the base level. The more that you dazzle people and confuse them with a bunch of different data points and stories and stuff, like they do with Flat Earth, the less able you are to see, like, oh, wait, actually, this particular point is all you need. All you need is to understand the southern hemisphere, the longitudinal lines, the distances. Has to be a ball. All you need to do is understand that the foam is what the kids are seeing through and what the adults are seeing through. That's it. This whole thing is bogus. It's all make-believe and pretend. Now, they might say, oh, well, it's okay that it's make-believe and pretend because eventually some of these kids are going to activate their true power. And if they were really saying that, like, in a more legitimate way, like, and that's what I was kind of hoping this was going to be, like, hey, look, yeah, you can see through the foam and you don't have to go all crazy with it. Like, smiling helps, which is what we tell you to do. Just be honest about that. Yeah, when we say activating, they're not, no, they're never going to be honest about it because no one would join, because the whole thing starts to look like a magic trick, which it is. And Edith, bless her heart, is the last person that's going to come to terms with this. She's told her child for 5 years that he can see through, he has this magical ability. She's created an identity around it. She's getting all these accolades. She's getting put on the premier stages of the, conspiracy truther world. And she's making probably decent money with it. So it's incumbent upon the podcast hosts, and if they're not doing it, then people like you and me, to call this out, okay? We have to keep each other in line and in check so that we don't lose credibility, so that we actually get the meaningful work done that we need to do in this society with the real deceptions that are happening.
So I want to tell you to please not worry because...
Just look at his face. Do you see where his eyes would probably be able to see through that foam?
It can look like circles here or here, maybe here even.
So that's what I mean. When he says that, they look like circles here. That's an optical illusion. The vision that you see over here is happening from this eye, okay? Where the supposed windows are opening up is just an optical illusion. It looks like it's happening right in front of you. It's really coming from this eye. Anyone can buy these masks and test that for themselves. You can buy this. You don't have to join this program for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, or in some cases thousands. $20 mask. Experiment with it yourself and see what I'm telling you, okay? This is something that I was telling them to do. Okay, I said, just tape the nose and see if it still happens. I wish, in retrospect, I wish I was a little bit clearer. Like, really what you need to do is tape, like, perpendicular to this foam, like actually make, because if you just tape over the nose, well, there's still all that foam there. They just have to now look underneath that little piece that you've added, but the foam is still there. And that's what you'll see here.
With this mask that has the black duct tape. Are you ready? Yeah, let's shuffle it a little bit.
Look at why do they always lean their head? Think about it. They're seeing through the mask, right? They're not seeing underneath it. They're not cheating. So why does the head need to be back? You can see how maybe he's seeing it through there. Plus, this is what I'm always telling. No one's scientific about this. I've seen video after video where they have the papers down there. Well, yeah, he's easily going to be able to see down in her lap. So is he getting a little hint of it before she raises it? I don't know. Hard to say right now. But maybe he's not. But regardless, you can see his head's a little far back. He's smiling. There's a little dip there. All you need, think about it. Cover your eyes. How much do you need to be able to see something? A tiny, tiny sliver. Okay?
And this one. Look. This one. Red. Nice. This one.
Look at him shifting it around, trying to see it.
This one.
Why is he moving his face like that?
Red. Okay. Now red. Extra tall. Just color.
In this case, she's covering his face, so it's hard to see.
Nice.
But you can see he's leaning back.
This one.
Same problem. His vision. Come on. Go like this. Can you still see underneath you? Yep, I can. Oh, I can.
To make it even more advanced, I started practicing with the shield.
The shield is kind of crazy. But here's the thing, people. Again, if he's seeing through some intuitive ability, some superpower, why would it be harder at all once you start covering that? Why would it be hard to put a full piece of paper? For one thing, it's dropping below. Like first he picks it up, it's down there sometimes. This one she put in higher, kind of.
It is pink. Nice.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how this is happening. What's the mechanism though? Is he actually seeing? I suspect that he's not actually activating something. Why? Because I know how these blindfolds work. Again, people have been trying to prove people have been falsifying the idea that these kids are reading through these masks for like 10 years or longer. Every time they try and use a control mask, they try and, scientifically, take out any factors that could be affecting things. It doesn't work. Surprise! If they had been doing this 10 years ago, why would this have not just gradually taken the world by storm, people? Think about it. Why would any kid stop doing these would be crazy powers. We'd be wanting to explore them and figure out how they can be used, or that's the other thing is I started questioning is it a connection they're having with the parent and stuff or something. But there's no one's actually doing real experiments and trying to isolate variables and stuff. It's so ridiculous. So I don't know exactly how this happens, but I will say, why is it so much harder for him to see as soon as you start covering that? Why is he having a more difficult time?
No.
Wow.
Actually.
Wow. Okay.
Peach, but I'm gonna say pink.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for you.
Green.
So again, we saw that other video with the adult woman who could see right behind her head, right? Or pretty much behind her head, like this. So is that what's happening here? Maybe. But there are also bright colors in the sunlight. Is there some kind of reflection that happens somehow? Maybe. Can you put have him read something there? Instead of the colors or something like that. Yeah. And look, to be completely honest, maybe Edith has some kind of crazy son who has true telepathy, I guess. It's really hard for me to even go there because it just looks like he's doing the same thing that all the other kids are doing. But what if there was one of these kids could actually do this ability? That still doesn't change the fact that the vast majority of them, if not every single one of the rest of them, is looking through the foam. And how do I know that? Because I can just tell. I was in the class. I saw what happened to my daughter. I saw what happened to me, to these other parents that are like me, have looked into this, experimented with themselves, and were willing to actually, break out of the groupthink with me. Because that's essentially what everyone is doing. They just don't want to rock the boat. And it's sad. It's sad because that's the whole, that's what we unified behind, was being the truth seekers that were willing to like be the, stand up to scrutinize things. It doesn't happen at all when it comes to our own people though, huh? Just people might like Edith. She might be a great person. Does that mean that we should just allow something like this to be promoted when it's being promoted dishonestly? It's so puzzling to me how everyone is responding to this.
I got goggles from swimming, and I just put them. Well, now you see the reflection of the window, but it's absolutely painted with black paint.
Okay, these goggles, they look like actually blackout. Like, I don't know how you would see through that. But here's the thing. I haven't seen any videos of kids getting things consistently right with something like that on. Go look through YouTube. Go look at extraocular vision, blindfold vision, etc. All the kids are wearing those foam masks. So that's interesting, but not helpful. Sort of irrelevant. And, unless you can prove that that's actually happening. And then again, the question is it just your kid that has that ability? Because can the rest of the kids do that? I guarantee you that if you put that on most of these kids, they're not going to be seeing anything.
So they spend a couple hours doing it. And she says to him, I think I'm seeing through my nose. Even though her window is here, it's on her left. And you can tell.
She's telling them that she can see through the nose. And they're saying, no, you can't, because you're seeing over here on this side of your face. They don't understand that she's seeing across the bridge of her nose with this eye. Do you get it? She thinks she's seeing something here from straight ahead. That's what you would imagine, if that's what your brain thinks is happening. But no, in this case, you're looking across right here with this eye, which again, you could figure out by just opening and closing one eye. That's, you know how long it took me to figure that one out? Like, I don't know, 2.5 minutes to verify what my suspicion was. And these parents are on this panel saying that, like, oh no, our kid was saying that she could see through there, but this is the level of scrutiny that we've applied here. Zero scrutiny.
But we put on the black duct tape and she progressed.
They put on the black duct tape and she progressed. Again, the problem is, folks, is that the black duct tape, it's not that they can still see through the foam if there's a little bit of extra black there.
Right now, the Blindfold, how it looks, how it fits, nothing. It's absolutely irrelevant because I can see the end goal in my daughter now, and that is what I'm focusing on.
See, everyone's on board with this idea that it don't worry about the training wheels, the training mask, like, don't look at that too much. It doesn't really matter because eventually they're going to have these crazy abilities. I do not agree with that. I think that people have imagined abilities and cherry-picked times when people were right and stretched the truth here and there, so they have this idea that, and maybe that, kids have put on a mask and then they've seen stuff behind them, which we've already seen that possible. We know that's possible, but most people will not admit that. It's not okay. It's not okay to be lying to ourselves and the kids because we think it's going to activate something.
There's tiny, almost microscopic perforated holes inside this foam, of which light is, of course, filtering through the crevices of that foam. But you're not making out objects.
False, Alec. False. You can see through the freaking foam. I'm pretty sure Edith even admits that. It's not just light coming through. You can actually read. I can do it myself. If you would just spend a few minutes with the mask, like actually trying to see through the foam, you could figure this out too. The reason you're not is because you people are so attached to this idea that you don't want to look too closely at what we're bringing up. But you have to, because you are calling yourself a truther and you're putting on a show and putting this in front of people. So welcome to the scrutiny that you yourself could not and are still choosing not to do. You can see through the foam, as anybody can tell. This isn't crazy. We don't have to go to Antarctica. We buy a $20 mask. Anyone can verify everything I'm saying. This is silly.
And that's an energy of like pushiness and coerciveness and everything. It's like there's no flow state here, right? It's like you're trying so hard, you're grasping, you're seeking, and you act as if you're a victim of life. And so I trust that the kind of audience that is tuned into this conversation, that we get that from time to time, we all get into fear and anger and apathy and guilt and shame and anger and pride. But just know ourselves that those are not the states of being where the most beautiful blessings and expansive possibilities can show itself.
This piece is nuts to me. So, and this is, Alfa Vedic just allowed her to put this on their channel yesterday. Look, when skeptics come and they don't agree or believe in what you're putting out there, your stories, and they get angry because they perceive it as being dishonest in a truther community, you can't just say, oh, you're not vibrating at a high enough frequency to get it. You're not in the flow state. That's why you don't get it. Don't get stuck in anger and fear and apathy. This is ridiculous, Edith. You're acting like the skeptics are spiritually inferior. I hope everybody can see through that one.
When it comes to, quote, open-minded skepticism, that can be taken in a variety of different ways, where if you're someone who claims to be open-minded, but then is outright denying that this is possible, referring to people as delusional, saying it's all peaking, that's teetering on becoming completely closed-minded and skeptical.
So if you listen carefully to what he just said, he's basically saying like there's an open-minded skeptic and a closed-minded skeptic. And if you outright deny what we say is happening, then you're a closed-minded skeptic. No, Alec. That's not how it works, actually. I'm not closed-minded. I came into the program. I signed up and paid myself. I wasn't dragged in by my partner or something like that, or my child. I believed in this. And then I realized that you could see through the foam. And then I brought it to your attention and others, and you pretended like that didn't really matter because you've seen X, Y, and Z. I'm not denying observed phenomenon. I'm giving you the causal mechanism. They're seeing through the foam. Even when they're looking behind them, they're probably seeing through the side of the foam right there. You act like, skepticism is only acceptable if you at least leave some room for us to play. No, actually. If they're seeing through the blindfolds, then this thing is false and you've portrayed it. You've deceived people. There is no my direct experience about this. Be honest here. That's what I'm calling for. And I hope there are other voices that come out and speak on this as well. Because I don't have an audience. I don't have a big channel. No one knows who I am. But someone's got to do this. How does everybody just go along with this? It's nuts. It's nuts, and it's so frustrating to me. I'm angry, Edith, not because I'm vibrating at a low frequency, but because I thought I was surrounded by people who were honest, who were able to admit when they're wrong, take in new information, and I'm finding out that's just not the case. I kind of want there to be like a bifurcation in the truth movement of like, where's the real truthers out there? The ones who are going to go, oh, maybe fell into flat earth, and then they go, oh, wait, yeah, actually, I see now. That's impossible. That's absurd. Oh, yeah, I did sign up for that blindfold vision thing, and then I realized, oh, yeah, they're lying about the mask. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, All right, I gotta wrap this up.